Okay, so in the last class we ended at this topic, tabulation. So today we will start with tabulation. Now, in statistics, technically speaking, there is no hardcore definition of all this, but we obviously we try to define in terms of what we are trying to do. Okay, but the definitions or the that I will write, do not treat it as some sort of definition like it appears in physics or chemistry. Okay, it's more sort of a working definition. We write it only when we are asked to, and other than that we don't do it. Okay, so what is tabulation? So that must be our starting point. So tabulation may be defined as, look at this term, may be. Okay, it says how much we rely on these definitions, right? So tabulation may be defined as the logical and systematic organization of statistical data in different rows and columns. Okay, rows and columns, and it is designed to simplify the presentation. So that's the trivial part of our objective, simplifying the presentation. And the non-trivial part is this, and facilitate comparison. So the last two words, facilitate comparison, is the non-trivial part. Why we write maybe? Because there can be tables in which I mean, technically speaking, you have to have at least two rows and several columns, or at least two columns and several rows. So you will have this option definitely, but the main objective is to facilitate. Sorry, facilitate comparison. Okay, and while keeping in mind that comparison is our main objective, we also have to think of the possible important comparisons that we are looking at given a data. Okay, so we can have a lot of comparisons, but some of them are kind of more important than the others. All right, so while constructing a table we have to keep in mind those things. Okay, so we'll go and write two advantages. Okay, number one is, obviously it will come from these last two words. So it facilitates quick comparison. It facilitates quick comparison of statistical data. So it is like writing these sentences in a different structure. Of statistical data shown between rows and columns. Okay, number two is errors and omissions can be readily detected when the data are tabulated. Okay, so errors and omissions can be readily detected when the data are tabulated, and that's Now this is obviously very important. Okay, textual data, that is, the easy example is newspaper articles with lots of numbers and all those things. When it is represented in tabular form, obviously it gives us a better understanding. So here we are talking about this. Also, some in some sense we'll talk about that later also, probably in sampling, I don't know, that or probably in central measures of central tendency as outliers. So that for example, you are collecting data on family size, and obviously when and you are going for nuclear families. Okay, nuclear families, by definition I'll say that one family which doesn't really go beyond the beyond two generations. Okay, and while doing that, if you suddenly find in the table while writing the table that you have collected a data which shows 20, then you'll be shocked. Okay, and then you'll guess that probably it would be 2, or if it is 20, then it cannot be treated in the same sample that contains other numbers like 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay, so those things that can be detected anyways. Okay, so let us now go to the important part, which is called different parts of a table. And this is the most important part that you learn, because you see, as I said, that given statistical data, we can easily draw or construct rather 2 or 3 types of table, and it will be very hard to compare which one is better because there is no such rule. And for that, whenever you are asked to construct a table, the maximum weightage is given on maintaining these different parts. Okay, this is the most important thing. Your table may be not that good, at times it can be quite awkward looking, but if you maintain the different parts, then at least in terms of exam, that's the best scenario. Okay, we concentrate more on these different parts, whether you mentioned everything or not. Okay, whether you kept given a title, kept a footnote, and all of that. Okay, and we don't treat the actual kind of orientation. We are not serious about that much, that much. Okay, so first comes title, and let me say just that statisticians are very sensitive about this. Okay, because you have to draw tables for a number of occasions, in a number of occasions. Okay, so for example, when in charts and diagrams you'll be constructing a pie chart, you have to construct a table showing the calculation in order to construct a pie chart, or for measures of central, for calculating mean or variance or correlation. For all of that you will need a table. Now when you are constructing that table, you have to give a title. Okay, without title, I mean, you can lose a lot of marks, because as I just said, first of all, that title gives you the, in short, you know what a title of a table gives, right? But also, as I said, that statisticians are very sensitive about this. Okay, because in themselves, numbers, they can mean 1,000 things. So without title, we don't really get to realize from where these numbers are generated. All right, so remember this. This is very important. Whenever you construct a table, you give a title, and you try to maintain all the parts that I'm going to show right now. Okay, in any occasion, whether you are calculating mean or median or variance, it doesn't matter. Okay, so then comes, as I said, rows and columns. So let's just take a specimen. Okay, the actual table given a problem can be quite complex, and that's not a problem. But here we are trying to draw a specimen table. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So these straight lines at the both ends that have not drawn, they actually mean the end of the table. All right. Okay. So title is in the above. Then this part is called the caption. This is the caption. All right. And this part, the this is called the stub, STUB. Even if you are asked to draw different parts of a table, in that case also you maintain writing stub in this manner. Don't write stub like this, okay? Because the ordering of whatever appears in the stub, that's like this. Okay. Okay, then just mention some 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5. All right. Okay, so this actually technically it should go like this. Okay. This whole thing, it is called box head. Okay. You may ask why they are not simply called rows and columns. Okay, but I have no answer for that. Then here comes the body of the table. Okay, so this is the body of the table. And then the most important part, total. This total is a very interesting, entity when it comes to constructing a table. Why? Because there may be some total figures in which we will be interested in, okay, in which we will be interested, and there can be some total figures which are completely meaningless, okay, which doesn't mean a thing. Now it is also said that whenever you draw or construct a table, try to keep the data in such a way that maximum number of possible total figures that one may interested in can be easily calculated. Okay, I'll say it again. Maximum number of possible total figures that one may be interested in can be calculated. All right. So when you are drawing a table, you have to keep that in mind. Okay. But yes, that has two things, obviously. As I said first, that while doing this, you can be carried away, so that you write total in those places where total figures doesn't mean a thing, because we have numbers here inside the table, so you can sum it up always, but that doesn't mean it carry any meaning at all. Okay. And there also, while constructing the table, you have to compare which totals are, given the data, are more important than the others. Okay. So all those artistic or subjective question answers are there, which makes different tables for the same data. Okay. So then you have source here. Source basically means from where the data has been collected. Okay. It can be a government site or a private site, or your book, for that matter. You have to mention that also. Or from the question probably, but source is not something that we write all the time while actually answering. We don't write source as the question number 5 or 6. We don't write that, but we mention this source, and then again. Okay. Then footnote. Okay, so footnote is if any, and that means that if the units or of measurements are completely explained here, and the caption or the stub, it doesn't contain any kind of abbreviations, then only you can write, you may not write footnote. Okay, but the better idea is that you write footnote and then you keep it blank. In that way, what the message that goes to the someone who is looking at the table is this, that you remembered, or that there must be a footnote, but yes, given the table, there is nothing to write in place of footnote. If you don't write footnote, that means a completely different thing. That means that you simply forgot to mention that there had to be a footnote. All right. So those two are different things. So the better idea is always that you write source and footnote, but if you don't have anything to write here, just keep it blank. So that way I'll get the message that fine, there is nothing to write. Okay, but just because there is nothing to write, do not altogether miss these two words. Okay, so this is the different parts of a table. Okay, and always remember that if you keep these parts intact in a table, then at least you will, even if you make a bad table, you will get decent amount of marks. Okay, because at least the framework that in which we work. Okay, all right. So now we'll go to the sort of definitions or guidelines regarding all these parts. Okay, and then we'll look at the criteria of a good table, which is sort of a guideline. All right, there is no hard and fast rule. Okay, so we'll take each term separately and we'll define, or at least try to define, what that must contain. Okay. So first is title. What is it? Brief description of the table. Okay. And obviously there is all those subtle points of not making it too brief or not making it huge. All right. So I'll tell you, while calculating, constructing table for means and variances, there is a very standard title that we always use. But apart from that, I'll suggest that whenever you'll be given a table, then it's fine. It's fine. You'll just take the title and write it here. But in the section of frequency distribution, when you will be asked to basically construct a table in a very specific manner, there choose the title's words, the words that will be in the title, choose those words from the question itself. Okay, that is the best idea. Okay, so stub. So what is the stub? It is the extreme left part, right, of the table where descriptions of rows are shown. Then comes caption. That is the upper part of the table, which shows the description of columns and sub-columns. Now in stub also you can have sub rows. Okay, there is no rule like this that only rows will be there. All right, so there can be sub rows and also there can be sub columns. Okay, now comes our box head. So it includes something extra compared to this caption. So what is this? It is the complete upper part, including captions, comma, units of measurement, and column numbers. Okay, so three things: captions, units of measurement, and column numbers. This is why you need the footnote. Whenever you are writing units of measurement, if you write km, then in footnote you will say that this km means kilometer. Okay, that's the use of footnote. All right. So now we will go to the other parts. So body, that part of the table which shows the figures. Okay, that part of the table which shows the figures. Then comes source. which is the origin of the available information. So it is the origin of the available information. And then comes footnote, which is the explanation of specific items. Okay, specific items. So title is the brief description of the table. Stub is the extreme left part of the table where descriptions of rows are shown. Then caption, which is the upper part of the table, which shows the descriptions of columns and sub-columns. So here, if you want to include, you can write sub-rows also. But that doesn't mean you add anything extra. Okay, then comes box head, which is the complete upper part, including captions, units of measurement, and column numbers. Then body, that part of the table which shows the figures, source, the origin of the available information, and then footnote, the explanation of specific items. Okay, so now we will go to the criteria of a good table. So I'll erase the upper part, then I'll write something, then I'll erase the lower part, and then again I'll write some points. All right. Okay, so criteria of a good table. Okay, first thing that we must write will contradict whatever we write later. So what is that? It's an art, and there is no such rigid rule. But then we want some aspects to be there. So what are they? Those will form the criteria. So it must be well balanced in length and breadth, which is not true always, but we'll try, right? Then data must be arranged following a logical sequence. So that means, if you have two genders, male and female, you will try to keep them together just side by side, that kind of a thing. Okay. Or if you have two or three things, where then you will have columns, then sub columns, and you may have even sub columns to those. So when you are making that kind of a sequence, you make it meaningful. And by meaningful, we basically mean the same thing that I started with, that it must facilitate those comparisons in which people will be more interested in. Okay. So data arranged following a logical sequence. So that's something that we will want from a good table. Okay. Then comes units of measurement. This is something that almost people forget in most of cases. So units of measurement must be clearly specified. So at times what happens is you use acronym, but then you don't write anything in the footnote. And in many cases, what happens is you just don't write the unit of measurement at all. Okay. Then comes what I was saying. So totals of both rows and columns must be shown. But then again, if any of the total are completely meaningless, then you don't do that. Okay. The figures that are meant to be compared, should be placed close to each other. Now, why I'm writing should? The reason is that, as I said, that if you have data, there will be a host of comparisons that you can possibly make, but sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do so. So you will try your best. Okay. All right. Then comes simple, brief, and this is important, self-explanatory title. Self-explanatory title. Okay. So you don't show your power of English language here. Okay. Lastly, if data is compiled from a different source, mention that in footnote. So if data is compiled from a different source, mention that in footnote. Okay. Now this is something that I already said. Okay. Now remember, there is one important thing that I must say. I'll show you a data set. Okay, in later sessions. What happens is you may get a huge data set. Okay, from a website, or okay, but the data may not be arranged in the way so that you could use it to serve your specific purpose. So in that case, what we call is you have to season the data. So you have to order it, make a new table, write it in a different fashion. You have to pick some numbers. You have to do that, and that's a very lengthy. Sometimes it's a bit boring, but a very important work. People who are uploading data in the websites, okay, they're not uploading so that you can work. They're uploading it as a whole package, or as a complete data set. Now that will not serve your purpose, and in most of the cases it doesn't. So in that case, you have to compile it in your own way. Okay, and in that case, you mention the footnote. And also, footnote carries basically the credibility of the data. That's a very important issue today, definitely, but always, it has been always that this footnote carries the angle of credibility. Okay, so in the next session, we will look at two tables, okay, two blank tables, but as an example, we see, okay, because the numbers, they don't really matter. What matters is your outer construction.